Okie dokie, there we go. Sorry, a little technical difficulty to get us started here, but it is Wednesday, December the 10th of 2025, and this is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan. And we find ourselves already in another round at week 8. Boy, does time fly when you're having fun teaching this stuff. So just to, as I always do, I'm going to go through the classes that we've been through in the past already in this round and how we lead up till tonight. So as you know, in unit number 1, we talked about the business plan, and I've been lately really telling you about the books that helped craft this entire methodology so that you can do additional reading yourself. So you get attached to the why I do certain things that the way I do and why they work, by the way, right? So the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan Explained is week 1, where we go through the business model that I turned into an infographic based on Michael. The next week, heavily influenced by the work of Brian Tracy, who wrote many books, but one called Goals, very simple, and why it's so important to write down a goal, which we taught you how we commit that to writing from day 1. So that, or the beginning of the year, and here we are setting that goal for all you Griffins and all you TRCers. We have that commission, that gross commission goal setting that we do at the beginning of the year, where we really just chart that course for the gross commissions that you will earn before splits, before everything, but just to get it set up as a business target, because in week 1 we talk about the business. It's not a job, it's a business. So those two things are really important, week 1 and 2. Week 3. This is really a topic that I love. It's important to me for a lot of different reasons, but it's all about bulletproofing your mindset. And we talked very, very heavily over the last couple of weeks about mindset, because when you get to the end of the year, you realize that's the thing that needs the most attention. And from my work one-on-one with top producers over the last 22 years, including having that struggle myself, you're going to run into what's called the resistance. And so the book that we talk about a lot there is Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art. And then that personifies that animal brain in its nefarious state, trying to stop you from thriving. So then that begs the question, well, how do you get out of it? And then that week, we talk a lot about psychocybernetics, or mind steering systems, written by Maxwell Maltz, a former plastic surgeon in the early 1900s to mid 1900s. So really, really a very, very powerful call, because you have to become something different if you want to become a profitable real estate agent. You can't just work with your current operating system. I said that several times in coaching today. Then we get into marketing, and marketing is a big deal because there's so much misperception about what marketing is. Usually people want to jump the gun and go straight to leads, which you talked about last week, but not in week 4. In week 4, you have to understand what your core content as a realtor is. You really have to understand that you have to create some basic things like a market update that answers the question, how's the market? Then learn how to put that all together in week 5, where we really create content into what's called a unique selling proposition. So weeks 4 and 5 really define marketing as it relates to effective marketing. And then we put it together in a unique way that is stunning, that something so simple can be unique, but it's literally the piece that changed the trajectory of the types of properties I sell, where I went from selling an average about 350 to an average right now, to be precise, about $1,090,000. I even got up over $1,000,001 last month, but a couple lower end deals below that closed. So I went back down just under 1.1. And I have to pinch myself to think, boy, that wasn't rocket science to do it. I just had to execute once I had these basics. But when you get a unique selling proposition developed, you have to realize also that just because you can focus on the median or above sale and try to get those listings, it doesn't mean everybody's a match just because you have the goods. Just because you have good information or the right information, the right order, it's not going to land with everybody, because there's a thing in marketing called avatar. And when you have an ideal or a unique person, you have to understand that there's psychographics, meaning, do they really have a why? Is their motivation level in the 9 to 10 range on a scale of 1 to 10? Because if you don't have those things, they're not avatar. And there's no such thing as, well, did you learn how to overcome objections? To do what? Change their why? change their personal motivation? Sure, there are some things you can do to educate people and they set free some of that fear. And yes, they might move up the ladder on the educational piece and maybe it tweaks the why, but you really are looking for those people that have those fundamental things so you can match your unique selling proposition with that ideal person. And a lot of that marketing information I learned from Dan Kennedy, who is a great information marketer. So turning information into physical information products in week 5. That's a real heavily influenced Dan Kennedy body of work. If you wanted to look at his book, Magnetic Marketing, you would understand where those principles come from, and also Avatar. But then last week I talked about leads. We finally get to it. It takes us 7 weeks to properly arrive at leads, where most new agents come into the business and their perception is, and it's a terrible misperception, that they should immediately go after leads. And they don't even know how, right? They don't even know why. So they haven't even thought about the business model. Like, for example, in week 1, we talk about Michael Gerber's challenge to small business people saying, how does the business really work? Well, the business works off of listings that go into a multiple listing service, which is all digital these days. So if you don't come up with lead generation techniques to acquire listings at or above the median, you are certainly not charting a course to become a profitable real estate agent. So it's very important that you arrive at an understanding of all of this before we can get on to the next piece, which is scripts. What do you say? So strategically, remember how we've set up the conversation tonight about scripting. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to jump up and down in a puddle, splashing and making noise. Scripts are everything. The precision of how you say what you say, all of that turns out to be wildly important. And it's every week when I'm coaching and training the tactical stuff and I listen to recorded calls, it is so easy for me to hear why real estate agents are not properly articulating their unique selling proposition to somebody, why they're not able to figure out from somebody by getting them to read their mind aloud. Why? How motivated? Because they don't know the exchange of reciprocity. So there's a lot of technique and strategy that combined when it comes to scripting. Now, tonight, I'm going to tell you that the book that really influences all of this scripting very heavily, and amongst other things, the rest of the course, is this book here that I'm putting up in front of you now. This is a national bestseller called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. Cialdini was a professor. I don't know if he's still active, but Cialdini was an expert in all things influence and wrote this very straightforward book. So when you hear me talk a lot about using reciprocation or the law of gift giving, that is one of the most powerful reasons why we create a product, an information product in Dan Kennedy's world, and give it away, because it creates this influential moment where somebody wants to reciprocate and give you back at least some of their time. And you're going to see that tonight in the scripts. But we also talk a lot about really leaning in on law of authority, which is also part of all of what he does. And the law of being likable. All of these things really find their way into our scripting. So that's why I just put it up on the board tonight. I highly recommend anybody who's in small business, sales, marketing, etc., gets a copy of this book, gets a copy of the audiobook, and just listens to it, just reads it. Because you all want to think that we behave in a very controlled manner, and we do not. We behave in a way such that we are acting through psychological triggers. There are many other books about psychology, but I would start with this one, and it's just very powerful. By the way, Charlie Munger, who was and has since passed, Warren Buffett's partner, loved this book and talked regularly about Cialdini. And it was originally written to have people beware of the nefarious tactics of sales and marketing, people that were trying to get your money from you. But there's obviously a positive edge to that too. And it's all about positively influencing people, but not being naive and too idealistic. You have to understand that just because you have virtues, you're a good person, you're hardworking, and you want to give away this stuff, you still have to be an influencer. You still have to sometimes even cut through misperceptions and get people to be influenced by the truth. And that's a very, very tricky, slippery slope sometimes. And ironically, the resistance shows up and says, oh, that's a little bit nefarious. You should never be like that. And it's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. We are doing the right thing by people by getting them information in the right order that empowers them to sell their property and or buy one in an appropriate manner. And you have to fight against bad advice out there, misrepresentation out there. So I'm making you into the army of do-gooders when it comes to getting this stuff. And you need to know the techniques of influence. Otherwise, you will be so idealistic, you will get eaten alive. Okay. So this is to protect you as much as it is anything. All right. Now I am going to get into the slideshow. We'll go through this. And remember, on a call like this, for all of you showing up live, I am happy to coach you on any subject in this course or any tactical thing or anything you're stuck on. Don't ever come to me and be available and get stuck with a question that didn't get answered. And if you're too shy on one of these calls to ask it yourself because you think it's a dumb question, type it in. Okay, type it in, and I'll even keep you anonymous because you can type me a private message in the chat. Okay, I want questions to be able to answer them, but I do want to keep this inside of an hour each time. So we'll go from there. Okay, so away we go. So what do you say to influence people, right? Well, let's go back to, let me just make sure I have the right slides here. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go back to a definition of prospecting because this is really, it's such a weird thing to say, but nobody ever taught me what the act of prospecting was. And I was left with a concept that prospecting was cold calling. That's all I thought it was. That was the simplistic, animalistic definition I gave myself. But in the context of how a business and service really works, you have this contact information flowing along through your business. And what's changing is the disposition of that contact. So in other words, when you first have contact information, we determine that its disposition is a lead, but that needs definition. So a lead does not have certain things where a prospect does. So turning a lead into a viable prospect requires you to determine what? Why they're moving and how motivated they are on a scale of 1 to 10. That's an extreme, and remember what I said about avatar or ideal persona. And we talked about that last week, right? So or whatever week it was. Let me see that. I just said that quickly. It was Avatar goes back to week 6. So 2 weeks ago, right? So these are two of the things that determine ultimately whether or not somebody is a prospect. Now, the one thing that I would add to this for all of you Griffins and TRCers, and I'm going to show you the scripts tonight, I put a working definition at the beginning of the master script list. And at the beginning of that master script list, it says very specifically that a prospect has a real why they want to move. They can see themselves being a 9 to 10 on the motivation scale inside the next 12 months. And they have accepted your unique selling proposition package, your physical package. If you dare on my watch, just do digital, shame on you. Shame on you for being that animal brain lazy where you are not believing the importance of a physical product getting in the hands of somebody that you're trying to turn from a lead to a prospect, because it is that very thing and that gift that triggers the law of influence that allows that person to feel comfortable answering some questions about whether they are prospectable or not. So what's the most critical point to understand about a lead? Well, before trying to turn the lead into a prospect, you must be aware also of their context. So I get this conversation a lot about scripting. And a lot of people, I remember somebody saying to me, yeah, well, I've been working all night on a FSBO program. I'm like, you did what? A FSBO program? What are you talking about? I have a FSBO script written and it's the same unique selling proposition package for any kind of seller. So what do you mean? He said, huh? I'm like, yeah, all you needed to know was the context, because when it comes to scripting, and you'll notice this, if we recognize the big three, and we talk about leads hiding in plain sight last week, well, the big three are what? Expireds, for sale by owners, and probates where somebody's passed. Those are the big threes in this business that provide a very clear path to where somebody probably has context to sell their house. So that's context, right? I tried and I failed. Somebody died and I have to sell. I'm trying to do it myself. So those are the types of ideas of context. Now, of course, on the internet, it might be a home evaluation context that they ask for on the internet. As far as buyers are concerned, it might just be an opt-in where they were trying to opt in to get access to properties for sale. So those are all contexts for sellers and buyers. So you have to understand that before you go to try to turn them, you're going to have to recognize that context to make that connection quickly, especially in a telemarketing medium. Or door knocking, especially door knocking, because it's the most direct. You better be ready to go and understand the context that you have at that door so you don't sound like a fool and get kicked off the porch, right? So what primary law of influence, Robert Cialdini, should you understand when developing your offer? It's critical to understand the law of reciprocity. So before we can sit here and craft a script, the reason for a script is really ultimately to make an offer to the ideal or avatar type of lead in hopes of turning it into a prospect. It's a formula. However, we've got to come at it with a primary law of influence. And so here we go back to this idea of the unique selling proposition being one of these physical packages of information, right? So I have these physical packages of information that I talked about when we talk about unique selling propositions. And this is what the gift is. And it's physical, right? It's an Amazon fulfillment moment when you get a gift that you've sent to yourself at the house. You know, it's Christmas time, you know, and holiday time. So these gifts are showing up at everybody's doors left and right. So doesn't everybody feel great when they get a gift? Yes, it's a law of reciprocity. So we're going to build all of this on that law. That's why in advance we said, let's make a physical information product so that when we get to talking to these leads and trying to turn them into prospects, we have to come up with a script that properly articulates the value of this gift. You can't just give a gift and think that's going to be enough. You have to give a gift that really lands with that context. You see how they connect? Right? I have to give to the expired. I have to give to the probate a thing that is seen as valuable, presuming that when I talk to them, they are indeed an actual avatar, meaning they do have that context. Because of course, you can call an expired and their context is changed. They decided to keep the property, or they just are eliminated immediately because they're already in a relationship with a realtor and they're not interested in your gift. So there won't be any chance for reciprocity in influence. Okay. Next, what secondary law of influence should you understand when delivering your offer? Well, it's critical to understand the law of authority. So I expressed this a lot when we talked about the unique selling proposition, is that you have to understand that in a strategic system like this, I am teaching you for you first. The whole idea is that this is going to be about teaching you first about this business. A lot of you that might come in here are newer to the business and you've just learned through these courses about compliance and it scared you half to death. That has really nothing to do with learning how a house actually gets sold and how somebody should actually, in best practices, buy a house. Things that are in the 7-step plan for sellers, the 6-step plan for buyers. You have to really go in there and learn it yourself so you become an authority on how those things actually happen. You get attached to it. Then you learn from there the importance of taking those plans and layering them with pictures and details of properties that sold around the expired, sold around the FSBO, sold around the probate, or for the buy side, pictures and details of properties that sold recently in the area within which they want to buy so they can see what the money's really buying. And then, of course, everybody wants to know how the market is. So you go right back up to content marketing, the section we did there, which is why we say, hey, remember we talked about making a 1-page statistical market update. So you're not randomly saying it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market. You're talking statistically meaningfully specifics, right? So all of this gets put in a package that you're in control of and you believe in, you understand. How could you be sitting here on these calls with me and not first being told by me and hearing me say, you all better go make a buyer and a seller package before you ever think you're going to be successful in this business? Ever. It's a huge mistake to think that you can wing it in this business. I already see people winging it. And when I say winging it, sometimes you're just defaulting to what you think you should say, or you went on the interwebs and some knucklehead with a script said, here, go do this, and it doesn't work, and you're scratching your head because you're not thinking through strategic principles, which are immutable or unbreakable. So an information product gift that's organized information to empower a seller or a buyer in an educational way is a unique selling proposition in every sense of the word. But now you got to pick at least the basic leads, and I want you to be profitable. So you're looking at median and above wherever you can. But now how do you offer it? What do you say? You don't just walk up to a door and get some stuff for you, right? You want it? You don't do that. It doesn't work like that, right? So how will we know for certain whether that lead is prospectable? Well, using a script, you ready? Now watch this one really carefully. Using a script allows you to eliminate your what, according to Michael Gerber? Your human discretion. What Michael Gerber talks about in his book, The E-Myth, is eliminating human discretion wherever possible at the operating level. And you see that in the evolution of business now. Most significantly and pictorially, you could go and you could ask ChatGPT even to give me a picture of a Henry Ford assembly line back in the day versus a Tesla assembly line today. And what you're going to see is a lot of machine tools. You're not going to see anywhere near as many people screwing on nuts and bolts to a car. You're not going to see that. So evolution is we're taking the people out of some of these processes. Now, the good news is the people that are generating the software and the code and, quality control and all those things. Of course, we're all scared that robots are going to replace a lot of that. But I think the modern day worker will be the person that understands that they're the ones that can really creatively think, and that they can program or tell a ChatGPT or any other AI what to do. So human discretion from a nuts and bolts standpoint, yes, is already toast, but it'll be the higher level thinker who uses that stuff. By the way, in full transparency, every single Wednesday before this call, I have my website call. I own the website company with my partner, Eric, in Belgium, and a lot of our users, we come in there. We write our articles based on what we want, but ChatGPT and Grammarly actually do the writing, right? So we're already more productive than most people, which is why we can generate a very specific topic in advance, because we're not using a lot of human discretion when it comes to typing it, thinking through it. We're asking AI to go in there and structure it. So today, the soup du jour, or the topic du jour, was the Fed. And the Fed was cutting its rates, right? And so I didn't have to think about that with my discretion. I said that will or will not affect mortgage rates. So I went to my website. I saw that mortgage rates actually went up in the last 24 hours, 6.133 to 6.2. And I asked ChatGPT to write an article on how in the world could we be doing, lowering rates with the expectation it's easing things, but rates are staying up, right? And so we wrote an article just like that. No human discretion versus me stitching things together other than me saying, here's a higher level concept, right? So you have to understand that these things are better than you winging it. You're giving your brain structure, and that's where we're going to get this increase in productivity if we understand this modern world. That's really important to understand. Right? How will you know for certain whether lead's prospectable? Again, you'll need to push towards acceptance or decline of your offer by determining whether or not the lead will have context to sell or buy, that's supposed to say, inside the next 12 months. Okay. So that's a very important thing to figure out, right? We have to know that. So like I said, the pro tip here tonight is Robert Cialdini's Book of Influence. And you gotta get yourself a copy. It's a must have. But tonight, I get right down into the tactical. So strategically, there's what it is, right? It's this act of using words to talk to seller leads, especially to influence them, if they're the right avatar, to accept your unique selling proposition in the form of an information product so that you win the opportunity to gain some insight into whether they really have the time, the reason, and the motivation, so that you can then follow up until you can then offer more for free, which is your insight while you're in their house or showing them properties, and your analysis to include a net sheet. I have one of the smartest clients in the world. She is so smart. Her father was quote unquote a genius. She is both Harvard and MIT educated. And we sent her over tonight the analysis on a property she wants to buy. And she just absolutely melted and loved it. Right? So when I tell you you have to become an expert at some basic things and that will empower you in the face of some really smart people, I'm telling you from practical experience. That was like an hour ago I was on the phone with her. Okay? So when we get into these words tonight, I'm going to beg you, don't fight it. Don't think you're better than scripting. You're not. And I'm going to show you how these things really, really work. And I'm going to stick to the expired script because that's always the most evolved, but I'm going to go show you this first. And so you can show me or tell me when you can see a prospecting formula tab in front of you. I'll go through this, then we'll open it up for calls. How many questions? Yeah? Somebody give me an amen. Thank you. Thank you. So the most important thing is the prospecting formula says, listen, you are trying to turn a lead into a prospect when they have a real reason why. And on a scale of 1 to 10, they're going to be a 9 to 10 inside the next 6 to 12 months maximum. Now, I say that some of the agents that have been around me a long time can go further than 12 months, including me. In fact, I just got a call from a guy who's got a $3 million property, and he told me, I'm going to be very loyal to you. He doesn't even know this. I actually got this. He doesn't, and I've been waiting. I've been holding it here. He has this incredible booklet on the property that I've been holding. He's got pictures of it. He gave it to me. It was like a very, very very specific thing. He said, I'm a loyal guy. I like you. I'm going with you when the time is right. And there we are. I got that call today. So I've been following up with him for probably 36 months in a telemarketing venue because he has a signature property, Waterfall. That's signature on Cape Cod. But he engaged my unique selling proposition, and he has engaged that unique selling proposition follow-up for all that time. So see, that diligence in creating these prospects through a system and then using the system to follow up and keep my bookmark in the page with him, that when the time's ready, I don't lose to an agent who's not as good, but happens to be the agent of the moment, because I have never left the context once it was first created. And that's what builds a business. If you want to do business, you can try to just find people off the internet that you think are going to do something, or hope that maybe a third party like a referral sends you somebody. But if you really, really, really want to build a real estate business, you have to understand the act of prospecting in its truest, best sense. Then tactically, you have to understand how everything I just taught you comes together. So watch how it comes together, right? So we're going to, and we have this both for door knocking and telemarketing. And all we did for door knocking was we changed the words a little bit, because you're not going to say the things at the door that you say at the, on the phone, because the context changes, right? But we've gone into everything here that is spoken is bold and highlighted. But you see what I did down here below them. Invoke the law of authority from Cialdini's book. Use a professional, believable, authoritative tone. So again, like I said, when you're studying the unique selling proposition information, you don't wing it. You don't make it look half-assed. Like I was with Mike Maservi today, and I looked at his and I'm like, okay, Mike, that's not what we do, right? And I was going to show him tonight too. That's not what it looks like, okay? Ours looks very particular. It looks like a very particular thing. And like the same folders should be used, not ones you made up that were blue that have this. No, we're a black and gold brand. We get these at WB Mason. We have black cards on the front. You can flip it around if you want. I prefer the Batman look on the front. They have 2 folders on the inside. When I tell you precision matters, it's because I have thought, how will somebody get this and consume this? Because I don't want them doing too much thinking. I want them doing. So in advance of the script, all of this stuff is laid out, right? But now with authority, I'm going to say their name. And I heard Natalie on a call this past week, and that's why we do coaching, because you think you're doing something a certain way, but then when you hear yourself like, oh my gosh, I'm not even close. And then you're wondering why it doesn't work for you because you're not doing it right, right? You're making corn at the, burgers and fries stand. And that's where all of this principle comes from. Great movie called The Founder, and you should watch it. You should see how McDonald's really developed this super precise formula. It's incredible what the McDonald's brothers did. And then when Ray Kroc came along and reconvinced them to franchise it, he freaked out on people that were, going out there and changing it. It's a great scene when he goes to one of the franchises he sold and the guy's cooking corn on the cob and whatever dessert they're giving away, and he freaks out on them, right? And he yells at him on a golf course. So precision matters when it comes to predictable outcomes, okay? So you want to say, Mike, it's a question mark that comes like as if somebody's in trouble. And that's the trigger we have as children. So psychologically, if I say Mike and I inflect downward, Mike, there's a law of authority to that. Is it Mike? How are you? What? It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that at all. The way that your human discretion creeps in, and that's the way the resistance says, oh, no, you don't have to do it exactly. Yes, you do. You're not going to make it your own. Tonality-wise, once you're into a prospect relationship with somebody, you might change the tone, but if you don't keep reiterating the message, then you've missed the point of reminding them, and you've gained some familiarity that you don't have. This is a business context. Right? Even when you have a past client where you hit it off and it was a wonderful relationship, you still have to stay in that professional mode. This is a business. This isn't some casual thing. So you don't pick this up and just make it casual. Mike, this is Danny Griffin from Griffin Realty Group. Now, I don't have to sound like a tough guy, but I certainly don't want to invoke my best Disney voice. Mike, right? I don't want any of that. I'm serious. This is business. I'm calling you because in Robert Cialdini's book, the word because is talked about as a major trigger. People lean in. I saw your beautiful home. Oh, I would never say beautiful, right? Or what if it's not beautiful? Shut up and read the word, says Danny to the animal brain, not you. Beautiful invokes what? The law of likability. You become a likable character when you refer to their property as beautiful, even in the face of them saying, what are you talking about? It's a teardown. Oh yeah, beautiful opportunity though. Okay. Just stay in these laws that influence people. It's not a bullshit thing. I really 100% believe every property for sale is a beautiful opportunity, right? So whether it's physically beautiful or not, it's a beautiful opportunity at the right price for somebody. Distress sales are a fantastic opportunity for first-time home buyers, investors. So say the word. I saw your beautiful home. Where? Online, because that's where we do see them. And noticed, and there's the context, it didn't sell. So because it's a trigger word in Cialdini's book, beautiful invokes the law of likability, and didn't sell gives them the context as to why you're interrupting them. You know their context. I've been doing my homework. I know you. So it brings this, not familiarity, but it brings this understanding. There's a real reason. The because is the reason. So I'd like to give you this gift. And here's the mega law of influence, reciprocity, law of gift giving. I'd like to send you some information. We don't get into it now because we don't have a lot of time. We got about 15 seconds to get these first 3 lines out of our mouth smoothly, with authoritatively, but in a likable way. So I'd like to send you some information to help you sell it next time. Now, in another book that's not Cialdini's, Seth Godin, Godin, great marketer, talks a lot about permission marketing, right? The double opt-in. Get the permission. Don't be so afraid to not get the permission. May I do that? Because what you're getting is the opportunity to market to them. Now, of course, you're giving them information, but you're marketing to them this differentiation about you that you actually will take the time to make this information and send it. Now, again, this is so psychologically driven. If there's even an inkling that they are the right avatar, meaning they probably have the context to still sell, he said, and a motivation that they can see subconsciously, at least, to do that inside a reasonable amount of time, they're going to do the knee-jerk yes. If you've ever been to the doctors for a physical and they say, let me test your reflexes, and they hit you with a rubber hammer right in the right spot on your knee, up goes your leg, you can't stop it, assuming your reflexes are working normally. Well, these people can't help but say yes in a reflexive way because you've used so many triggers, okay? Now you've got them in a yes mode. So you're going to, great, may I confirm the mailing address is the property address, period, right? But then you have to double opt them in. So if you go back to this permission marketing idea, we want to double opt them in. We got a yes, so they're there. But now tell them what it really is. Make them say yes to a fully articulated offer. If we tried to say all of this on the first moment, they'd probably hang up on us. The high Ds would. And the high Ds can still be a good avatar. So you got to get out of your mouth in that 15 seconds of time while you're interrupting them very quickly. Get the reflexive yes, and then gear down a little bit. Great. Just so you know, we take the time to customize it. It will include pictures and details of properties that sold in your price range, straight from MLS, just like realtors. A one-page exact direction of current market pricing. And as a bonus, the real words, as a bonus, because there's a segue, as a bonus, a copy of our 7-step plan that we customize for our clients, which you are not yet. We're just hoping to make you a prospect, but someday we'd like to make you a client, but we're going to tell you we're giving you client level shit here, right? So that's it. May I send it? Now, if you hear them go up even a little higher pitch, if they go up in a higher pitch, that means probably a really good sign. They understood what you just said it was, and they're a little bit surprised it's so thorough that now they're even a little bit excited to get it. You won't hear that in every recorded call, but in the ones that are really like virtuoso performances where the person's true avatar and you're staying in the words, you'll hear them go, oh yeah, great, right? It'll go up a little bit. Super. I want to call you next week to ensure it arrives. So now what we're doing is we're trying to lock in the true law of reciprocity for at least the delivery of the package. I want to call you next week to ensure it arrives. What's the best day to call and what's the best time to call? Slow down and get the commitment. That's another one of his laws. It's a law of commitment. Okay. So if I give you a gift, I've triggered reciprocity. You're going to give me some time, but now I want you to commit to a particular time and day so that hopefully you're committed to at least answering. It's very hard for people who have the attention span of a gnat right now because of what the internet's done to our brains, but at least trying to get them to commit to this. So when it arrives subconsciously, hopefully we put a dent in this. Great. I'll call you then. But before you leave, I got to take something from you. Okay. Here's my reciprocity. If I get this far with you, I gave you this. You said yes. I'll be calling you next week, but I need to take something from you. I just got to double check that you're really the avatar. By the way, while I have you, reiterate likability, because now I got to take something. It looks like a beautiful property. Why are you trying to sell it? Now you shut up, because this is also it's similar to a law of influence, but Simon Sinek's made an entire living as a professor talking about why. Start with why, okay? It's a very, very, very powerful question. Why are you doing this? Because what it does, it allows somebody a beat to go into their subconscious even, not necessarily their conscious, right? But their subconscious, and go, and come up with a quick answer, because your subconscious is an incredible computer. It's like its own chat GPT. If I put the right input, why, and it goes into the supercomputer, it probably can spit out an answer pretty quickly. Downsizing. I'm sick and I got to get out, whatever. Job change. It comes quickly because you've let them go. But if you're talking over them while they're doing this, you miss the whole point of allowing this influential question to have them open their mind aloud. Now, remember, you just went through 2 beats of double opt-in. Yes, yes, I'll call you, law of commitment. So they're in it with you at the moment, assuming that you're moving along at a pace that is matching them and you're swiftly getting to this spot, you can control it if it's slower, but you got to get this answer because you have to know whether you're about to waste your time or they actually have this, right? Now, once they answer why, listen to them. Listen to them. When I was role playing with Natalie the other day, I said to her, I forget, I said, somebody died. And she went, oh, on a scale of 1 to no, it doesn't say, like, you must allow for them to speak. Listen to their answers and engage when they stop speaking. Be patient. So all you have to do is keyword people. I'm sorry for your loss. A little breath. Thank you. By the way, soften your tone because the context just changed, right? Death. Geez, I'm sorry. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell it within the next 12 months? I'm still going to ask the question, but I'm going to change the tone with which I'm asking it because this is getting more personal. The first stuff in the scripting is to manipulate them, to get them to say yes twice and commit to a follow-up. But now I can further qualify to see if they have the why in the motivation. So again, on a scale of how motivated are you to sell? And shut up. Don't say, do you think you're a 9? Do you think? Just shut up. Let them go there and have that process themselves. And even if they don't come up with it, maybe you can eventually lead the witness. Wow, that sounded like you were really motivated. Is that a 10? After they say something and can't spit the number out. But it's better to say, okay, what number is that? Right? And just try to get them to say it, because the more they say these things, they're committing themselves to it and they're co-creating this experience with you. People will support what they co-create. People will support what they co-create. People will support what they co-create. So if you're in a real tennis match with them and you're allowing them to have the ball and hit it back to you, they're co-creating with you properly, and you're getting recognized for that. But if you keep interrupting them, then you're not co-creating anything, right? Your taking is ugly. This taking is psychologically driven and very important to them, okay? So now, if it's 9 to 10, try to add to the offer, right? Okay, so in that case, because you're so highly motivated, I'd be happy to have, or if it's you yourself, I'd be happy to deliver the package myself and stop in to give you some of my insights to help you sell it next time. But if I'm there, it includes more than just those 3 things, because it includes what? A price analysis of the properties that sold around you to determine your current market value. And I would also include a net sheet to show you what you'd walk away with after all expenses. And I'll also give you tips on what to do and not to do to get the best price based on our 7-step plan. May I do that? So usually it's a no, because even though it's a good offer, if you go there, they don't know you. And we live in a day and age where we just don't let people we don't know in the house. But they can remember you just made an offer for information and you can default to it, right? So we just go back to it. If it's a no, okay, I'll call you next week to make sure that information arrives, right? And that's it. That's it. Because it's going to be very rare you can get right into the house. But all of that eliminates your human discretion, makes an offer that is really irresistible when it lands with the right people. And all you're doing with an expired versus, say, let's go to a FSBO, okay, for sale by owner, you just change the context. I'm calling you because I saw your beautiful same home online, same, and noticed that you were trying to sell it yourself. All I did was change the context to FSBO, and everything else is the same. If I go back to probate, it's the same thing. I'm calling you because I noticed that you're the personal representative for a probate estate. Assuming there's real estate in the estate, I'd like to send you some information. So really, there's a couple of lines here that get a little bit more complicated, right? But that's context highlighted there. Now, home evaluation. Somebody comes in online or they're referred to you. I'm calling because I know that you're looking for a home evaluation. So all you're doing is slightly tweaking the scripting to recognize the context within which you found them And that allows you to then make the offer, right? So it always comes back to the same thing. All right. Whew, all in one breath. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to come back to all of you and I'm going to open it up for questions and see what y'all have for me. Okay. Shauna, you look mysterious in the dark there. You're all glowing. You're glowing in the light and then it's mysterious in the back. That's a good look. Questions from any of you tonight? There you go. It's all good. Natalie, thoughts about this since I brought you up a couple times? Well, just bring it back in, even if it's awkward. Just bring it back in. And Autumn used to teach, keep your finger on the script. If you're telemarketing, just keep your finger on the script. Yeah. Just keep, where are you at? Because you have to achieve what you need to achieve out of the call, or you don't know what you're doing next. So don't worry if it's awkward. Just stick to accomplishing what you need to. Not yet. No, no, not yet. Give her the information so she can vet you. That was my whole point. Give her the information so she can vet you. Then make the offer to Zoom. Yeah. No, see, you're trying to take by just wanting to go to a Zoom is a taking mentality, and that's what we're trying to shift. Give her the information. Let her digest it. Let her vet you. And then you call and say, did you get it? And you follow up the script this time because last time you didn't. So your follow-up script, right? It's very important to follow that. I mean, it's critical to follow that, right? You really, really, really have to follow that. So let me just go back there for a second. Because you're rushing like anybody. You're rushing like anybody. You're just rushing. You're not. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because the resistance is so strong without the education, the fundamental of understanding why I do it this way. It's rooted in all sorts of immutable or unbreakable concepts in business, right? I mean, they just exist. We can pretend that they don't. Our brain can pretend that it's strong enough to overcome it, but there are a lot of people that have come before us. And by the way, there's a great saying in the Bible, especially by in the Old Testament with Solomon, there's nothing new under the sun, right? So it's just that over time I've been able to put it in an effective order based on principles of books that I've read and ideas. I'm reading another psychology book called Nudge right now, which is another national. Yeah. So that's another national bestseller. And what's interesting is I noticed already with that psychology what nudging really is. I don't know if you've all noticed it where you live, but if you go on the highway these days, you're going to see these additional little marks on the highway. And what they are is like if your wheels are to the left and right of those, you're in the center of the lane. That's a nudge, right? That's a psychological trigger. It's a brilliant one too, because it's probably saving a lot of people from drifting off the road, right? Because when you fall into that zombie zone, you're looking to the left and the right of those lines and you drift left and right. Now all of a sudden you see these things in the middle of the road, and it's almost like a game, you're staying in the middle of it. I noticed myself psychologically doing it. So you never stop learning about these universal things, and they're applicable to business in an incredible way. So why would we like, so here's the short-term follow-up. Natalie, it's Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. I'm calling you because we spoke last week and I put that stuff in the mailbox to you, and I wanted to make sure you got it, right? So I just changed the context. Did you? Right? So by the way, while I have you, it does look like a beautiful property. Why are you trying to sell it? So you can go straight to it now. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell it in the next 12 months, right? And so, or if you already have it, last time we spoke, you're selling because of this and there's a why. And say, by the way, because you're so highly motivated and you're interviewing people, I'd be happy to come in and give you some of my insights. Now, I've taught you to say, I'd like to compete, but don't just say that, right? Just go into your offer. Say, because you're so highly motivated, I know you're interviewing people, I'd love to stop in and give you tips on what to do, what not to do to get the best price. And while I'm there, I would bring a price analysis, including a net sheet, to show you what you walk away with after all expenses. May I do that? And you're trying to rely on that, a law of reciprocity with the package that you put together, because nobody did that for her but you. But you got to go to this. Now, if she decided not to do anything right away and said, I've decided to wait until, later in the spring, great. Then you're going to continue to, follow up with her and make her a longer term offer. If I go back to this, until you're ready for a visit, to make sure we keep you updated on the market changes, we'll email you properties that continue to sell around your property straight from MLS as they happen in real time, monthly market updates, and we'll also mail a summary of the information bi-monthly, monthly as well. And I'll check in from time to time to make sure you're receiving it all. May I do that? So you're setting it up in the short term. You're either going to get in or set up the long-term follow-up. Then there's a script for long-term follow-up. It's a system. You just go from step to step to step. You don't think. You do, right? Shoot. Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Why wouldn't you want it? Why wouldn't you want it? Because you're trying to kill it. You gotta not be afraid to kill it. Don't kiss their ass. Otherwise, you got to bloat a database. And now you're doing all this work, and somebody see it's very, very important, Jackie, that they continue to accept your unique selling proposition, right? That they are engaging your USP, initial offer, and follow-up. So if they will not accept your follow-up, then no good. No good. You're wasting your time. It's not a prospect. So fight for it. Say, listen, this is going to be really helpful, and I want to send it. Assuming I have a chance down the line to compete, let me show you how I follow up, right? Don't be afraid to be that aggressive, because you've got to bring people to a conclusion, because you don't need that many people to sell or buy with you in a year to hit your financial goal. You don't. So don't waste time with people that won't really become a prospect in the right way. Sure. Yep. Go. Yep. Oh, you'd go to, yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. It's called ChatGPT. Go there and ask. No, I'm not kidding. Go like I just built an entire business plan for my website company, for its CRM. We're getting into the CRM business. I just built an entire business plan in about an hour. Yeah, yeah. I'll go right there and say the same thing you said to me. Good, good. I love it. A brilliant idea, and this is my whole point about AI. It's a brilliant yeah, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, well, what I would say is well, what I would just go to ChatGPT and ask it. Say, "I'm reading the book, Psycho-Cybernetics, and I would like to, create a version of myself successfully saying this script to somebody at a door. Here's the script, and how do I go get my voice and my face saying this script?" Right? Yeah, I think it's yeah, don't waste too much time though. Don't waste too much time. Don't waste too much time because it's still you're not gonna make any money in this business without being human to human. Like, listen, Jackie, I just put another double-ended deal under agreement, the weekend after Thanksgiving because I was in a house doing an open house, right? And I answered a phone with a real human. Had nothing to do with anything other than that, right? So you've got to get these listings by talking to real people, making a real offer, giving them a physical package. Just be careful. I think more as getting additional coaching on specific subjects is a brilliant tool. By the way, I was going to tell you too, while you're doing psycho-cybernetics, you should probably listen to The War of Art as well by Stephen Pressfield, because he really does a brilliant job of talking about this outlines a battle plan to conquer the internal foe. And the internal foe he personifies as the resistance. And so the resistance is actually, Doug Winters and I were talking about this, is very insidious. It's devilish and it's shape shifting, and it can sneak up on you. It can say, "Oh, Jackie, you went to this, this thing on AI, and AI is the way, and AI is good." Okay, good, Jackie. Did you also door knock a one expired listing just the way that this plan says you're supposed to this week? Did you do that? Because if the answer is, let me just go there. Because if the answer is no, you lost, right? You lost. That's the war. The war is you lost. Let me just see if I can get it here. Hang on one second, because I want you to see this. Yeah, and a good distraction. People say, "Oh, screw Danny Griffin. Screw Danny Griffin." Screw that's what your animal brain says, and everybody says, right? Screw him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. AI is the way. Okay, great. I'll bite. AI is the way, right? However, I'm the one making money selling houses at the high end. So I'm telling you where I use AI, and I'm telling you where I'm leery of it, right? Hang on a second. Trying to go to tire screen here. Bear with me because I want you to see this. Probably could have just done window. Tell me when you can see. Yeah, good. Okay. So here, this isn't going away. Day one, Monday, choose one like target listing. I don't care if it's one of the big three, you pick one. I like expireds, they're the most no brainer. FISBO second, probably for all of you, and then probates. Make a seller package. Just make sure that avatars, they're not like, they didn't just expire. Give it a week or two. Add it to the contact pipeline manager. You can put it in your front seat and drive by and door knock 5 days in a row. And then on the sixth day, you can mail it or drop it off. Then you can start a whole sequence on telemarketing, calling them 5 days in a row. If you're not going to door knock, go straight to the telemarketing 5 consecutive days in a row, then mail it, right? But if you haven't done any of this, you can go to 16 different conferences and you're just wasting time because it's not a primary way of acquiring a listing at or above the median price. And that is the strategic marketing plan's primary goal. The reason for building a unique selling proposition, building these scripts is so that you can turn the right lead into the right prospect and then follow up, right? So it's the primary goal. And this is not going away ever. And it hasn't since I've been in the business. It's not going away. So we can sit there and we can procrastinate because the war that's going on in our mind to crush our creative, which means what? You are an entrepreneur, all of you, trying to build a real estate business, and you're going to be up against the war every day. So become aware of it by Pressfield's book, but then understand how to program yourself out of screwing up the priority of things to do, going to conferences and learning and doing things, but only after you have made that package 44 times in a year, added each one of those once a week, not 2, 3, 4 in a week, one a week, and then you execute. If you don't do that, I'm going to be here next week saying the same thing, right? Well, because I don't know another way. I don't know, but I can tell you and I can prove to you all financially, it has been a dramatic difference in the type of property that I sell. Oh, but COVID's made everything. Yeah, but I didn't triple. I didn't go from 315, 350 range to a million 90 to be exact right now because of COVID, right? It's not what happened. And furthermore, the majority of the deals that I've done have all been, driven mostly by listings I got. So I'm picking up better buyers off of those listings. I'm double ending some of those listings. Those past clients are referring other listings. So it's coming this way. And it didn't take me that long. I think in the last 48 months, pretty close to 48 months. I remember Kathy kind of started kicking in 4 years ago, right about now. And then we started tracking. So I've done close to 92 million under this methodology myself in my own book of business on about 85 sides, million 90. It's just, like I have to pinch myself. Now I'm just trying to scale that up to say, okay, if I can do a million 90 average, can I do more deals per year? Okay, good. How do I do that? Well, I got to get a couple more good telemarketers to dig them up for me, right? So it's just so logical once you have a system, but you will be in a war with your perception of what's possible for you every day. So wherever you find yourselves, I'm not going to change the system. I'm going to tweak it every week with the mastermind like I will tomorrow. I'll take a look at some stuff, right? But you have to train your brain to make this business work for you. Or and then become conscious that there's a way to do this to program yourself. But don't ever come on these calls and act as if you've never heard me say, pick one listing target a week and go for it. What you do after that, I'm good, right? I'm good. But as long as I know you did this, I protected you I helped protect you from the war. Yeah? Shoot. Shoot. Remotely from what? Like he wants to do that, but no. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Oh, you wanna run one. You wanna run one with physical people. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yep. Well, where is she? Why isn't she here? It's okay. I just told you it was okay. Yep. Yeah, well, just tell yeah, just tell her to come here. Don't worry about all that. You're up in your head. Just bring her here. Okay? Good. All right, gang, we're OT by 7 minutes. I don't like to do that to you, so I'm gonna call it there. Good job. I appreciate you all coming live. I know it's not easy to do all these calls live, but yep. And then again, remember, you are all invited on all the calls. Okay. Any of you inner circle, types that come to these things, that are TRCers or Griffin affiliated, tomorrow's mastermind, it is Thursday. You're all welcome there because I'm getting a harder time getting just the masterminds on anything because we're all so distracted. I'm inviting everybody on all calls. Okay. All calls. And Shauna takes advantage of that. So she'll tell you that's how you keep programming your brain, right? Good. Here, have a good night. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all coming live. Have a good night. You're welcome. Bye, YouTubers.